Hey family, happy Thursday. Welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, live at 5 p.m. Pacific on the West Coast, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. Ooh, I hope you guys are well. It's been a busy day. It's been a long day. I started very, very early this morning. What some of us in law enforcement refer to as "Oh Dark 30." Now, I don't know if we necessarily invented that term, but I started at "Oh Dark 30." And I am out of waking up early shape, if I could just say that. I'm sharing this on my timeline as you guys step into the room. Welcome to my first through the door, folks. Olivia, welcome, welcome, welcome. Debbie, welcome. I appreciate you guys being here so early. Um, Lots going on. And I don't even know where to begin. We're going to talk a little bit about that shooting in Fresno that is now being released because this shooting actually happened a couple of years ago, but now there's a civil suit that's about to jump off. And so there's a lot um, being discussed, and, I don't even know if it's a debate. I guess it could be. Um, you know, the police department's already said it was good. They like it. The community, not so much. So we'll talk a little bit about that and just what I've been doing today. I know you guys want to know, right? Before I delve into all of that, let me just be doubly sure my picture is good. Can somebody just let me know? Because today I had to kind of do a little remote interview. I had to pack up I heard him be referred to as a studio in a bag. So I thought that was kind of cute. I had to pack up my laptop, my lights, my camera, and take all of that with me this morning when I went over to Inside Edition, because when Inside Edition asked me to come and speak to them, I was already committed to CNN. And so, I was trying to figure out how to make it work, right? And so we worked it out. And um, the deal was I had to get over to Inside Edition early this morning and then set up my camera. So I'm hoping that in all of that jostling around and, being in my big old purse didn't mess anything up. Let me know if my picture is good. And listen, as you let me know if the picture is good. Okay, Lawrence, thank you so much. And thank you, Lawrence, for letting me know that you finished the book. If you don't want to go to Amazon, I hope you will, and write a review. Why don't you slide over to DM and let me know what you thought, or even give me your number and I'll call you and we can talk about it, because I'm old school and I'd much rather have a conversation with you about what you thought about my autobiography, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate. So, since it looks like I've got the thumbs up, everything is clear, volume is good, let me start by welcoming everybody to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. We do this every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. And from time to time, I'll come and stick my head in the door and just share some things with you guys on a day other than Thursday. But what you can always know and trust and be comforted in is that you'll see me on Thursday. So here we are, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. For those of you who are social media savvy and busy, follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. My handle there is SGT, the abbreviation for Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. And you can also subscribe to I hope you will, my YouTube channel, because remember, I talked to you before last week. I'm on a mission and I'm trying to reach a milestone with my YouTube channel, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. So everybody on Facebook, I need you to go over and link up with my YouTube subbies. What's up, subbies? And subscribe to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks on YouTube. Now, part of the reason why I'm really, trying to get my numbers up is because I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but there's a new thing coming to town, and it's called the Black Channel News, BCN, I believe is what it's called. And that's part and parcel of what I was having a conversation with Dr. Chavis about on last week, because he seems to be connected to the folks behind the Black Channel News. And it's supposed to be, I saw on social media, here on Facebook actually, this is supposed to kind of try to rival what CNN is doing with their all new Black broadcast situation that they have going on over there with Bakari and I think, ugh, I can't say who, but you guys know what I'm talking about. You've probably seen them advertised. It's going to be starting pretty soon. And so BCN is going to be something like a 24/7 news channel with information important to folks that look like me and others who, just kind of want to know what we care about. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is just, make sure that my numbers are continually on the uptick, if you will, on social media. Because listen, if nobody's following me, if nobody's listening, then why would anybody else want to give me a time slot? And so my hope is, I'll just share it with you. I'm gonna just put it out there in the universe, and I need 2 or 3 of you to stand in agreement, touch with me that I can convert what I do here every week, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, what I do on YouTube every week, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, to a time slot somewhere over on the Black Channel Network. Because listen, they're going to need content. And if they talking to, Black folks, hey, Shaz, calling in from Trinidad, what's up, sis? If, they want to put something meaningful out there, you would want to have Sergeant Dorsey on your network, because there's nobody giving it to you real, raw, uncut, if I could say it like that. That when I use those kind of words, that conjures up all kind of stuff. So let me just behave. Let me not go where my mind is taking me with those set of adjectives right there. But yeah, they would want to have Sergeant Dorsey to come on and talk, because like today, listen, today is going to be action packed. You need to share today's broadcast on your timeline for real, because we're going to talk about that Fresno shooting. And I am most bothered by what I saw in that shooting. That was one of the things that I talked about today when I was on HLN Headline News. And I've already put up the video. I had problems because I was still in the car on my way to Inside Edition. And so I didn't realize I got my timing all wrong, and I had to do it over the telephone. So you can't see me on the Headline News hit, but you can hear me, and you can hear what I have to say with regards to the Fresno shooting of the 16-year-old kid shot in the back of the head. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, and I'm going to break down all of that code talk that they are giving us now. And clearly they were successful with that foolishness when the family went to, if there was a criminal trial, I don't know if they charged the officer. I don't even know if he was indicted, but he was cleared. Whatever happened, they cleared him. They have an independent review board out there, and the ORI, ORS is some kind of initials, because you know how the police love initials. And they cleared it. And I'll tell you why they cleared it. And so we're going to get this straight today. I'm going to give you guys the words, because that's what I do. I decipher police code talk as a LAPD insider with 20 years of patrol experience as a police officer in patrol and as a patrol supervisor. I decipher that police code talk. I pull the covers back, expose that thin blue line, and offer ways in which we can all get engaged. Because listen, there's much work for us to do here. This stuff is never ending. You see time and time again the same thing happening over and over and over. You hear me come to you week after week, same story, different family, different victim, and kind of the same outcome. So there's a lot of work for us to do. And I want to talk about the kinds of things that I think would be helpful if we would just roll up our sleeves and get busy and get to work. And then, of course, on those rare instances when you might encounter a police officer, I'm going to tell you the things that I think, might keep you safe. And so part of that is going to be something that I also spoke on today while I was at Inside Edition. I'll share that link with you, and you're probably going to be surprised about my position, maybe. My LAPD family will understand, but there was a Black female at a university in Oregon, and she was riding her bike on the wrong side of the school campus, and police stopped her, and it went all bad. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well today. So settle in, hunker down, share this on your timeline, create a watch party, invite your friends, call who's ever in the house with you and have them come sit next to you, because Sergeant Dorsey Speaks Live is on. So let me start off by just thanking a couple of folks, because many of you have already started subscribing and liking and following and sharing. And so I want to acknowledge those of you who have heeded my request. I appreciate you. Over on YouTube, my subbies, you guys are the best. Nedra, Nikki, Juju, Family of Stones, Wanda, Namesake. No, Wanda. I'm sorry, Wanda. And then there's a Cheryl, my namesake. Cassandra from KCMO, Catherine from the Bahamas, Key Cadillac, Ardrey, Queen Bee, Ferguson Factor 710, and Auntie Boogie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And can you guys go and just grab 3 friends and bring them back to YouTube and have them subscribe? I'd really appreciate it. And then over on Facebook, I want to thank Elizabeth and Damien and Arnita and Lashinda, Spy Nation, Shantae, Patrick, Vanessa, Maria, Regina, Erica, Rajiv, Barbara Jones. And now let's get to it. Okay, so you know, this is a thing. I've got all kind of stuff going on around me. You can't see it, but I got lights, I got ceiling fan, and I think that must be what causes me to have what looks like allergy act up whenever I get on the air with you. So just, you know, look away. Hey, Marie, what's up? Denise, hello, hello, hello. All right, so here we go. For those of you who do not know, I have a podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. My podcast drops every Tuesday, new content. And so just real quick, what you missed, if you didn't already subscribe, I'm just going to tell you there's a lot going on about a 1963 Supreme Court ruling, and it's called Brady v. Maryland. And this basically has to do with problem officers on a police department. I go into pretty great detail on my podcast about this Supreme Court ruling and why it's so important that you know about it. So you need to go over and subscribe to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks podcast on the platform of your choice. I'm on all of them: iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeart, whichever one it is that you like to get your information. Go to find Sergeant Dorsey Speaks and subscribe. What this Brady situation is all about, it's been discovered through an investigation that was conducted in part by USA Today and another organization. And they found out that there are at least 300 prosecutors across the nation, 300 prosecutors across the nation who are not taking steps necessary to comply with this Supreme Court mandate. And what this speaks to is officers who have a proven history of lying and of having been involved in serious misconduct. Because any officer, you hear me say this all the time, any officer who lies, who gets caught lying, can't be a police officer, shouldn't be a police officer. But there are at least 1,200 police officers right now across the nation who have been caught lying, either on an arrest report, putting someone in the system and going to court and testifying and then putting that person behind bars. They're out there. There are people behind bars right now because of these at least 1,200 that the 300 prosecutors' offices are not properly monitoring and making sure that they're flagging them. I don't know how they've even allowed them to remain on police departments, but you know how they get down, right? And so, you know, they'll look away. So Sergeant Dorsey Speaks podcast talks to that. You need to know if you have family who have been, you know, they believe wrongly incarcerated, they need to know about this mandate and what's going on and what you can do to clear up your name if you have been the victim of one of these, at least 1,200 police officers. And of those 1,200, it says that there are 261 specifically who have been disciplined for dishonesty on the job. And so I say all the time, you know, if you have been found guilty of dishonesty, that means you can't go to court. You can't raise your hand and testify. Well, you can unless your defense attorney doesn't know. that you've already been found guilty of lying administratively and that you've been disciplined. So that's why you need to make sure that you are aware of the Brady List. If you've been involved in any criminality or just accused of being involved in any criminality, you need to know about this list, and you need to talk to your attorney about that and see if the officer whose name is on your arrest report, on your traffic citation, on whatever it is that they use to document an interaction, have they been proven to be a liar? You need to know. Okay, so that's that. Now listen, all that snotting and crying and hugging and Bible passing out last week. And remember little Amber, she said, I don't even really want to live. I don't think I should, have friends, and nobody should, put money on my books because, I just feel awful. Well, evidently not so much, because now this heifer's appealing her conviction. And so somebody contacted me and asked me to comment on it. And so let me just say this, while it's bothersome, it's her right. It's her right to file an appeal. And she hasn't actually appealed the conviction just yet, but it's coming. And the way I understand it is that so many days after a conviction, I don't know if it's 30, but there's a certain number or a number certain of days after a conviction that you have to at least make your intention known that down the road you may necessarily appeal your conviction. So that's her right. They filed the paperwork just this week, last week, stating that, going forward, after they take a look at everything, they may appeal the conviction. So just, that's what's going on. And this notice of appeal was filed on October 16th. So that was just a few days ago by her attorneys. And now that they've filed this notice of appeal, they can kind of take their time and look at the transcripts and go over everything that went on and see if there's anything procedural that they want to object to in the finding of guilty. So that's that. Now, while all of that is going on, and that could take some time, listen, before you know it, it'll be September 2024, because that's when she's eligible for parole. So, if they don't get it done before she's eligible for parole, they could certainly, I guess, appeal it retroactively. I think, I'm not a lawyer, don't quote me, but I think, they would have the opportunity to do that. So yeah, all that I'm sorry and all that forgiveness. Hey, Ed, what's up? All that forgiveness. Hey, Christopher, Lisa, what's up? They, Amber, is doing, wonder how the family feels about that. That's why, forgive quietly at home in your special prayer closet. Don't be doing all that forgiving out in public. And, I don't even know if, I couldn't forgive. So God bless the Botham Jean family, because I couldn't forgive. But anyway, that's what's going on. And so while we're talking about appealing, let me just go ahead and jump forward just a little bit, because Daniel Pantaleo has reared his ugly head, and him in the mouth over in New York are raising a lot of hell because of, his termination for the choking death of Eric Garner. And so Daniel Pantaleo is appealing his termination. And they are very, very hot behind the collar, or hot under the collar, I'm not sure. But anyway, they're real upset about it. And so Daniel Pantaleo is appealing it. Now, I don't know, they have a big work slowdown over there, and I think that should work real good for you guys that live in New York. They're not writing no tickets for BS, and, they ain't chasing you down if you riding your bike the wrong way, or if you crossing in the middle of the street, whatever it is they do to you guys over there. They're not doing any of that right now. Arrests are down. So I don't know who they hurting, but arrests are down. And so now Daniel Pantaleo is appealing his termination. And, good luck with that. They are really going after that female who presided over the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Maldonado is her name. I think I'm gonna reach out to Sister Girl Maldonado and just tell her, girl, stay strong, because like I said, Pantaleo was a proven liar. So in my mind, when the commissioner said he was ineffective, I heard him to say he's ineffective because we know he lied, and the Civilian Review Board knows he lied. I don't know how they overcome that, but I mean, good luck, Daniel. Good luck. He gets to try. Also, with other police stuff, I mentioned to you before that there was a officer who had been involved in a fatal shooting. His name is Zechariah Pressley. We talked about this. Tony Green, he shot and killed Tony Green, and they only convicted him of, I told you he was found guilty, right? He was found guilty. He was convicted. And so now he's been sentenced. And so for his shooting Tony Green back in June of 2018 on a traffic stop, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. But guess what? He only has to do one. He only has to do 1 year in prison. So that really means if you're here in LA, that sounds like really, 30, 45 minutes, right? And then you get out. He'll spend the next 4 years on probation. So that's what happened to Zechariah Pressley for the fatal shooting of Tony Green in June of 2018 as a result of a traffic stop. He'll spend 1 year in prison and 4 years on probation. And he too has already filed an appeal of his conviction as well. So, can't get so excited anymore about these convictions, right? Because you can get convicted and then you get a slap on the hand. So we're going to have to really kind of focus and hone in on what needs to happen. How do we change that part of the puzzle, if you will? There is a white police officer over in DeKalb County by the name of Robert Olsen, who also recently had a trial. He was found not guilty on felony murder of Anthony Hill, an unarmed Black man. But the officer, Robert Olsen, was found guilty of aggravated assault, making a false statement, lying, and a violation of his oath. And he will also be sentenced pretty soon. November the 1st is when he's sentenced, Olsen, in the death of Anthony Hill in DeKalb County. Now, Olsen is facing, 35 years. So we already know he's not going to do even close to that, but that's what he's facing. And then before I get into this Fresno shooting, let me just tell you what's going on with Brother Man over in Chicago. Mr. Johnson, Commissioner, Superintendent, what do they call him over there? Eddie Johnson, I guess Chicago, yeah. So what happened with young Eddie is, what happened was the other night he had been out, doing what commissioners do late night. And he decided to pull over to the side of the road and, rest a little bit, he said. And somebody called the police because they saw him resting a little bit behind the wheel of his car. They didn't know it was him. And the police showed up and, he got the homie hookup because, we don't know. We'll never know because they wound up, taking him home. He said he'd been drinking, but what he said really happened is that he, he takes blood pressure medicine, and that blood pressure medicine sometimes messes with his stomach, Wasn't because he was drinking. He'd had a long day. He got up early like me, probably got up at dark 30, and he'd been, commissionering all day. And then he went out, had dinner with some friends and, meeting and, had a beverage. But it was that hypertension medication that he takes that really just pushed him over the edge. And so he just decided to pull over, and rest a little bit. So, this new mayor over there, Miss Lightfoot, I guess she'll have a chance to see, what she's going to do about this. Is she going to stand behind her commissioner, Mr. Johnson, or is she going to, make an example of him? My guess is nothing will happen because at the end of the day, how do you prove it after the fact? They let him go home and, there is absolutely no way to prove that he was drunk days later. He says he wasn't drunk. He said he had been, taking this medication, and it just didn't sit well on his stomach. So, um, yeah, let them find me or you sitting on the side of the road, um, resting. We'd be given an FST, we'd be given a breathalyzer, and they wouldn't give a damn what kind of medication you had taken, because listen, DUI, driving under the influence, means under the influence of alcohol, under the influence of drugs, under the influence of medication. So I'm not really sure. Well, I'm sure, rank has its privileges. And so I'm sure that that's why they didn't give him a breathalyzer. They didn't give him an FST, because listen, if they don't give him one, they can't really speak to his inability to satisfactorily complete the test. Now, I would imagine that he probably, because look, I worked Central Traffic Division for 5 years, and all I did was arrest drunk drivers when I wasn't writing tickets. And so I know what objective symptoms of intoxication looks like. As a matter of fact, I was even a drug recognition expert. So that means I know if you're under the influence, because I could look at your pupils, right? And I could figure it out. So they could have too. They chose not to. So anyway, that's that. That's what's going on over there, in addition to all the other foolishness that jumps off in Chicago. So that's that. Now, let me share something else with you real quick, because there was a young lady. Her name is Genesis Hansen, I believe. And Genesis Hansen is a sister girl, and she's a student at a university in Oregon. And what happened with young Genesis is that she was on a bicycle on campus, and it was she was driving the wrong way. Long story short, she was driving the wrong way on campus on her bicycle. So the police pulled her over, and the officer was very, very patient with her. Very, he spent he spent about 18 minutes more than I would have with that ass, answering questions that she was demanding he answer. I wouldn't have done any of that, y'all. I'm here to tell you, I wouldn't have done any of that. The video is about 20 minutes long, and like I said, he spent about 18 minutes more with her than I would have. But he really did go out of his way to try to de-escalate the situation, to try to get her to comply. He was going to give her a warning. He just asked her for her ID. He wanted to know who she was, and she wouldn't give it to him. Okay. I got to turn my volume down. Hang on. She wouldn't give him her ID. So then, she sparked his competitive edge. And so now he's like, okay, so now I really do need your ID, because now you're going to get a ticket. And then she didn't understand. She kept asking a bunch of questions, and she wanted to know under what authority did he have to even ask her for his ID. She wanted to know what was the statute that said she couldn't drive against traffic on her bicycle. And at some point he requested another unit, and another unit came, and they actually had a book. You could see in the video, they flipping through pages to tell us half of the actual statute, and he reads it to her. And even in him reading all that, she's still asking him more questions. And so eventually he had enough, and he just decided that he was going to have to take her to jail for interfering. And that's why I say all the time, comply and complain. If she really thought that he didn't have a right, just give him the doggone license and let him write his ticket, do what he's going to do, and then you can call and file a complaint. And the reason it's so important to file a complaint, because this is a university campus. The department is probably not that big. And if you have officers who are really abusing their authority, then you want to create a paper trail. You want to make a list, make it known to their supervisors, to their police chief, that you have officers that are out there doing selective enforcement, that are racially profiling, if that's what he was doing, because it will show up by the repetitiveness of the complaints that are going to come in. So it's very important to lodge a complaint if you have one. She didn't do that. And so, of course, then once he put his hands on her, then, you know, she started squealing like I was going to say a pig, but that wouldn't be right. You know, she wasn't happy. And it just went all bad. And at the end of the day, she was arrested and the charges were dropped, because I would imagine the prosecutor over there probably thought, I got bigger fish to fry, lady. I don't have time to fool with you. And so they dismissed the charges, and she's still, Genesis Hansen is still making a big deal about it on the internet. And I don't know if she's looking to get paid. I'm thinking she probably really ought to just get back to class and concentrate on getting a good job, is what I'm thinking. But she's still, you know, making a lot of noise about this. And the problem that I have is that if, you know, if this were legitimate, that would be one thing. It wasn't. The officer was very patient. Were that me, I promise you, you know, I'll say this, and my, you know, LAPD family understands, it would have been a 13th floor booking if it were me. I would not have played with her like he did. So I thought he was very patient. And I, you know, when I talk to you about things, you know, I'm fair. And, you know, if an officer is messing up, I'm going to tell you. If community is messing up, I'm going to tell you too. And I'm going to tell you because really, I just want you to be mindful. You may not get someone as nice and as patient as this officer. You might get a fool. You might get the officer that Isaiah got the other day. And so now I'm subject hopping, but I'm getting back to what I wanted to talk to you about all along, which is the shooting in Fresno. So, you know, you might wind up with an officer like that. And of course, then, you know, that would be all bad. So comply and complain, and then, you know, create that record. So the Fresno shooting. Okay, so here's the deal. This young officer, and I'm trying to find it as I speak to you. This young man, it says in the article, and you can look it up for yourself because I want you to see what they're talking about. I want you to pay close attention to the way that they speak about the 16-year-old kid in Fresno. This happened back in April of 2017. And the officer involved, his name is Ray Villalbazo. Ray Villalbazo is the officer in Fresno who was involved in this deadly shooting of this young man. And what the police chief, he's not having a whole lot to say about this, but one of the things that he says that they said after the shooting is that this officer believed that the young man might be armed. He believed that he might be armed. Well, he wasn't armed. He didn't have a gun. And if you look at the video, and I've shared the link with you, and subbies, I'll share this in the description of the video with you. I'll share these links in the description so you'll be able to take a look at them and see what I'm talking about. But what the chief said is that there's a lawsuit, there's a civil suit now, so the chief won't say anything because there's a civil suit. He won't say anything because I don't think he can really defend it. For real, I don't think he can defend it. But in the video, you see the young man running. You see the police first try to stop and talk to him. Now, what the police said is that he was involved. And so I'm going to do it like this. He was involved, right? Air quotes, in a homicide. I don't know what involved means. Do you? Because involved to me doesn't mean anything. It's double talk. Involved could have mean that the day before there was a homicide and he was on scene. He may have been a witness that was uncooperative. He may have, they may have thought he knew the person that actually committed the homicide, because what they don't say is that this young man committed the homicide. They said that they believe he was involved in the homicide. And so they stopped him. They wanted to have words with him, and the young man took off running. Now you can see in the video when he takes off running, you can see that his pants are down, below his waist, too low. And if you're gonna run from the police, it's kind of hard to do that if your pants are hanging off your butt. So I think what happened is when this young man went over the fence, it looked to me like he was grabbing at his waist to pull his pants up so he could keep going, because he didn't know whether the officers were going to be able to get over that fence as quickly as he was able to get over that fence. Now, that's what sweet youth will do for you, because there was no way in hell that them officers were going to be able to get over that fence as quickly as that young man did, especially wearing all the gear that they had on. So they opted to just shoot him in the head. Why chase him if you could just shoot him in the head? And now we know that he didn't have a gun. And they said, oh, well, he was on the grounds of a daycare center. Okay, what's your point? Because him being on the grounds of a daycare center where there are children, I get that it could be unnerving and startling to the kids and to the teachers and the adults that are there looking over these children. That's why they have doors and they can do a lockdown, right? The fact that he was on the campus, if you will, the grounds of a daycare center, does not all of a sudden make him a deadly threat, because they believed that he was involved in a homicide, and therefore you get to shoot and kill him. What the officers should have done, since they couldn't get their asses over the fence, was to get on their radio and set up a perimeter. Show yourself at scene, code 6. Suspects eastbound through the houses, eastbound through the daycare center. I need a unit over here. I need a unit over there. You start setting up a perimeter, officer, so that you have responding units not come to where you are, but come to the place where you think the suspect may come out if he's running away from you. On the next street, mid-block, on both corners, you set up a perimeter. You get an air unit. You do all of that. You don't get to just shoot him in the back of the head because he's on the grounds of a daycare center and you think he was involved in a homicide the day before. Well, I don't know who was present when this thing went to whatever court, if they had a grand jury and they couldn't indict the officer there, or if they did go to court and the jury didn't, obviously this young man, his name is Isaiah, he couldn't talk because he's not here, he's gone. He couldn't tell them that all I was doing was trying to pull my pants up so I didn't fall down once I landed. I got up. I was just trying to get away. I wasn't going to hurt any kids, and I wasn't going to hurt the officers. He can't say that because he's not here. So the only thing that was left, of course, was the officer's version. And so when I'm reading this, and listen, this is not everything, I'm sure, but just in reading this, if this is what they're putting out to placate the public, if you will, it's problematic for me. And so now there's a civil suit, and the police department doesn't have a whole lot more to say about it because, they know that they're going to have to pay something, no doubt. Because the other thing that you can hear on this video is one of the other officers who shows up to the fence, and they're looking through this like wrought iron fence. You hear one of the other responding officers say to the guy who shot him, "Good shot, good shot." Like they're hunting quail or something. Good shot. So here they are celebrating that they have taken this young man's life because they couldn't get their asses over a fence. Good shot. It's offensive. It's offensive. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with this family. I know that they have an attorney. Hey, Barbara, I know that they have an attorney. And, I don't know what kind of experts they have. Look, I'm not really looking for no work. I reach out when I see stuff that really bothers me. I'll reach out and I'll try to get people's attention and just say, hey, I'm here. If you want to holler at me, I'll tell them what I tell you, or I'll tell you what to ask them. And, if folks, see value in what it is that I say based on the strength of who I am, they could get back to me. Now, I don't know why it's not always that way. Black people, we can be a funny lot. So, I just reach out to folks, and, you guys can reach out to folks, and you can let them know that there is somebody who speaks in a way that could be helpful to their cause. I hope this family up in Fresno, and I do have some family up there, so I'll reach out to some of my activists up there in Fresno and see if there's anything that I could say that might be helpful. Because like I said, when I'm looking at what they said, they believed he was involved. They thought he had a gun. He didn't. It's a problem for me. So, officers are taught to use only that force necessary to overcome resistance. Resistance is not someone running away from you. Resistance is not, my big ass, can't keep up with this young kid because I'm not in shape, and, I probably shouldn't have had that big burger for lunch. That's not resistance. We saw this happen with Michael Schlager, who pumped 8 rounds into the back of Walter Scott, who was running with a hitch in his get-along, and Schlager couldn't even catch him. So he shoots him in the back. And now we have another officer do the exact same thing. You can't get over a fence. You're too damn lazy to get on your radio and set up a perimeter and request an air unit. So you shoot this kid in the head and you kill him, 16 years old. And they said it was okay. They said the shooting was within policy. I don't know what the hell kind of policy they working off of up there in Fresno. So my guess is, you already know, my guess is they're going to throw, coins at the family. Not going to bring this baby back. Not going to make that officer do anything different the next time he gets an opportunity to shoot and kill somebody, because his partner, will run up and tell him, good shot. I don't know if they went out and had drinks that night. I don't know if he got an extra damn belt buckle, at the next steak fry. LAPD family, you know what I mean about steak fry, right? What other kind of celebrating did they do after this young kid was shot in the back of the head because they couldn't get over a fence? What kind of celebrating did they do when this review board decided that it was a good shooting, when they said, good shot? What kind of celebrating did that department do? What kind of celebrating did that agency do? Did that police chief? Did their police officers association do? Did they give him a medal? Is he teaching a class like Betty Shelby, how to be a good shot up in Fresno? Is that what they do? So I'm really bothered. I'm really bothered by it because, you guys, I see no end. I see no end in my lifetime, and it's really disheartening is what it is. And so, sometimes you guys, I appreciate all of you wanting to know what I think and asking me and bombarding me with, hey, Sarge, take a look at this. Could you look at that? Could you talk about this? I appreciate you wanting to know, what I think. But at the same time, y'all, you wearing me out. You are wearing me out. And so sometimes, it's not personal. If I don't get back to you, if I don't look into that thing that you've asked me to look into and I don't speak on it, it's just because I'm up to here. I'm up to here. And, I talk about, me taking care of me. And sometimes, that means I just need to kind of step away because there's so much going on. It's not like I'm just talking about stuff that's happening here locally in LA. If I was just talking about foolishness in LA on LAPD, that would be easy. I'll tell you something happens once every 2, 3, 6 months. But when we're talking about, 50 states, 18,000 police departments, that's a lot of foolishness, family. That's a lot of foolishness. And unless and until you guys are prepared to roll up your sleeves, start getting in the faces of these police chiefs, these mayors and city managers, until you're ready to start emailing folks, until you're ready to create a Twitter account and get on Twitter and ask, where is it okay to celebrate taking a life of a 16-year-old child? Where is that okay? Police chief up in Fresno, where is that okay? If you guys aren't willing to do that, I talk about this in my book. I tell you all the time, go to my website, www.sgtcheryldorsey.com, and read my first chapter. My first chapter, you can read it in its entirety, and it's called You've Been Warned. And I talk about, it may not be you now, but you might be next. It may not be your family now, it may not be your loved one, but you could be next. You could be next. And so wouldn't you want to do something? Wouldn't you want to be proactive to start trying to put some things in place now? Because listen, the train is on the track and it's moving. So it's going to take a little bit to get this thing to stop. It's not going to stop on a dime. Understand that. So we have got to start doing things now, just little steps, baby steps, small things, attend meetings, ask questions. When people are up to be reaffirmed in a position, ask them about what they did during their last term. Why should we give you a second term? When people are up for election, prosecutors, judges, there's going to be a whole slew of judges that are going to be on this down ballot in 2020. Who are they? What kind of cases have they been involved in? What kind of things are they allowing to happen? What kind of trials are these prosecutors supporting? You need to know. And then, of course, you need to get on the jury, right? You need to be on those juries so you can, when they start damn autographing Bibles, you can say, we don't do that here. I'm not autographing no Bible. We're not passing them out. That looks like that could be a violation of something. Who can I tell? You need to be on the jury. So, I'm going to continue to talk to you guys, and I'll continue to share with you, what it is that I think you need to do. And, some of you will and some of you won't. And, I know what I say is not for everybody. And, I know there's conspiracy theorists out there. It's so funny because I was talking about this on my podcast, and I'll share it again with you. Real ID, everybody. I was talking about this Real ID. You got to have it by October 2020. I think I may have mentioned it last week, the Real ID. And one of my YouTube subbies, he wrote and said, I'm not getting no damn Real ID because that's just a way for the government to do something, track you. I'm like, dude, if you leave your house, the government is already tracking you, right? They already tracking you. They got doggone face identification jumping off in certain places. Police can drive past your car and they running your plate and you don't even know it because they're tracking you, and so I'll just kind of laugh because I would love to be a fly on the wall when that ass decide he want to go somewhere and he walks up to the gate at some airline with that old ID and they don't let him on the plane. He gonna lose all of his shit. If I could just say that, I would love to be a fly on the wall. So when he said, I'm not getting no Real ID, it works for me, sir. Proceed, Governor. In the voice of my president, 44, proceed, Governor. So listen, if I say something and it doesn't resonate with you, then sir, it's just not for you. Just either fast forward the video to something else that you can relate to, or go to another channel, whatever, gets you through the day. It works for me. I don't take this stuff personal. I just tell you what I think might be helpful. And on that same vein, I had someone come to me about the whole Tatiana Jefferson thing, and may she rest in eternal peace. They buried her today. Somebody said he couldn't have been Black. Conspiracy theorist. He said, well, how come they haven't buried her? YouTube subby. My YouTube subbies are rowdy. Facebook family, if you guys aren't on YouTube, you really need to just come over and see what goes on over there. They are a rowdy, funny bunch on YouTube. And so this person said in the comments, well, how come they haven't buried her then? People, wake up, wake up. You heard of Sandy Hook, right? So I had to tell this troll, get off my damn page with that, because I guess the inference is that Tatiana Jefferson wasn't really killed. This was a conspiracy, and she's not a real person, and she didn't really die. And they made up the whole story about her death like they did the 20-something kids that were killed in Sandy Hook. Because, there's a whole cotillion of folks who think that that was all made up, and that the parents are, what do they call them? Some kind of actors. Anyway. So, people believe what they believe. And so, listen, I say all the time, I am not here to convince anybody of anything. If you see something on my timeline, Facebook family, if you don't particularly agree with, what it is that I say, understand it's my timeline. And so some of you probably have already noticed you put some mess up on my timeline, and then 3 minutes later it was gone. Yeah, because it's my timeline, and it's a fuckery free zone for those of you who are new. And so if you have real issue, if you have real beef, that's what your timeline is for. Take that over there. Take that over there. I'm just sharing with you, what's out there. I may or may not comment about what I personally feel about it. I'm just putting it out there. But if it really rubs you the wrong way, feel free to go back to your timeline with that link and just vent away. But you don't get to do that on mine. So know that. All right, family. That's it. I'm looking at your comments. And crisis actors. Thanks, Tony. I was having a senior moment. I couldn't think of it. Yeah, that's the term that they use for folks that they believe are not real, victims. How many people would it take to be involved in that kind of a event? I mean, you've got, particularly if there's a funeral, right? That means the people at the mortuary, everybody at the mortuary is lying. the coroner's office, the ambulance, the people that allegedly transported the victims, the hospital workers, everybody's lying. That's but I mean, if you try to discuss it with, these Twitter mites and trolls, that could be an all-day thing. And y'all, I got other stuff to do. I don't have time, and I'm not trying to convince you of anything. So if you see me say something, I come from a good place. I think most of you understand that. I come from a genuine place of, I'm just trying to tell you what I think is helpful. And if it's not helpful, then just don't pay me any mind. Just think she's a crazy lady, and why would I listen to her? Kind of like what my kids do. They don't listen to me often either. So yeah, just treat me like my kids do, and that'll be fine with me. So anyway, I'm going to give you a little heads up because, I've been busy, and busy is good. I'm not complaining, but listen, I got to go and recharge my batteries. For those of you that have been with me for a minute, I like to travel, and I've got cabin fever because I've been here in the compound for a minute. I haven't gone anywhere. So these next 2 months, November, December, I'm going to be moving about the cabin a lot. And I'm going to probably try to figure out, because I'm going to be in different time zones, I'm going to try to figure out how to come to you guys every Thursday. I can't guarantee you it'll be at 5, but it will be every Thursday. And, we'll talk about what's going on. I will still be asking you to share things with me between now and the end of the year, because I'm going to be out of the country, and, news doesn't get covered everywhere, all the time where I'm going. So continue to share those stories with me, and I'll research them, and we'll talk about them every Thursday. I'll continue to make sure that I have a couple of podcasts in the can, K-Rose. I'm going to have some stuff set up for you too, sir, so that you can make sure that you keep that running for me while I'm away. But I need to recharge my battery. I need to. So I want you guys to keep me in prayer as I take off and make sure that I am covered and have traveling grace as I go. This is I'm looking at my calendar right now, October 24th. So I'll be taking off mid-November. I've got a couple of things already planned, and so I am excited about it. And I'm going to miss you guys. I'm going to miss my Law and Crime Network too, because I've been on there almost every week with them. So I've already worked it out with my publicist. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Wendy, for putting me on the shelf for a minute and working that out. We'll do this again back on January 1. So, family, that is it. Unless you guys have something for me. Oh, Barbara, you love me. Mwah, mwah, thank you. I appreciate you. Unless you've got something for me, I'm scrolling through as best as AT&T will allow me to see what it is that you guys are saying. But let's see. Okay, so DM, email, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks at Gmail. You could go to my website, www.sergeantsgtcheryldorsey.com, and contact me there. You can fill out the little contact form. However you feel comfortable reaching out to me, do, and I will get back to you. And until then, be good and be safe.